This is news and commentary from America's Heartland. You're watching Heartlander News. Welcome into Heartlander News. I'm Chris Stigall. President Donald Trump having a red letter day yesterday on Flag Day, UFC Day, potential Iran Peace Day, and of course his birthday. While we're on the subject, it is interesting that JD Vance and Marco Rubio have been brought up as the future of the party. I would agree. There's certainly two guys that are leading the pack right now. JD Vance sat down with CBS News for an extended interview. Interesting profile look at him and how he thinks. Always appreciate that. Talking about whether he's considering a run. Here he is at number 77.
But a lot of people don't know you as well as all the Washington insiders.
Okay.
So genuinely, people are curious about your answer to this question.
Sure.
After the midterm elections, we know you're focused on the midterm elections now. Will you and your family make a decision about whether you will seek the Republican nomination?
Well, we certainly have to make a decision about something because I have this job and I'm blessed to have this job, honored to have this job until January 20th of 2029. And Ush and I will absolutely sit down and talk about what comes next for our family. But, I think people sort of assume that I'm sitting around figuring out whether I'm going to run for president, whether I'm not going to run for president. The way that I make decisions is I try not to make them until I absolutely must. And right now, I'm doing a really good job, I think, for the American people. I'm trying to do a great job for the American people, and that's what I'm focused on. And I really don't ever want my thought about a future job, whether it's president or anything else, to make me a worse vice president. And the way to do that is to keep my attention on the job that I have right now.
And just final thing, what's your gut at this point, knowing it's early? Do you lean toward running or not? I guess it's too early. You haven't made the decision.
It's again, Bob. Here's why I take this perspective. Let me just say this again. The reason I take this perspective is because when I make a decision, what am I thinking about? Am I thinking about what's good for my political future 3 years down the road? Or am I thinking about what's good for the American people right now?
You write a lot about these themes in the book.
To do this job the right way, you have to be thinking about what's good right now. I can't be a crappy vice president because I'm so worried about my political future. I just got to do a good job right now. The politics will take care of itself.
At some point, you have to make a decision, though.
I will. Yeah, at some point, you'll have to make a decision, but not yet.
That's a smart answer. There are still, much to the chagrin of most mainstream media, there is still 2 years to go yet in this administration, and he's got a job to do. And of course, he's thinking about it. But the appropriate answer is, I have a job to do now. The president is the president now. We still have 2 years of work to go. So I'm not in any hurry, nor should he be. Why should he be? If he wants it, the apparatus is certainly there and ready to engage. Meanwhile, from the Hill, Democrats hold a 5-point edge over GOP ahead of midterms. Now, before you get too excited about this, if you're a Democrat, or depressed about it if you're a Republican, do understand the sample size here. They say a plurality of respondents to a recent NBC News survey said they want Democrats to win back control of Congress. A plurality. So again, not a majority, a plurality. So if... I don't know. I do think every now and again it's important to stop and talk through when you read these things, what they actually mean. Aaron, if I told you that we have 10 people in the room and you're cooking dinner tonight for 10 people in the room and you've decided you're going to make meatloaf because you make a great meatloaf. And then I tell you a plurality of the 10 you've invited over like meatloaf. And by that, I mean, there are 4 who say they like meatloaf, 2 who say they don't, and another 4 who are nervous to give their opinion because they don't want to offend you. Do you feel good about serving the meatloaf with those numbers? Because in effect, I would say it is a plurality of people that like meatloaf. Does that make sense? So what I've said is the people that we've invited for dinner, 4 of them have publicly professed, yes, I like meatloaf. 2 of them have said they don't, and another 4 said no comment. And so I tell you, Aaron, a plurality are excited about your meatloaf of the 10 coming over. How do you feel about those numbers?
Not confident.
Yeah. That's the right answer. But you see, this is the trick. This is the way media tries to get you to think things are one thing when in fact they're not at all. 2,400 registered voters, okay? That's who they interviewed, 2,400 registered voters. Now, remember, when you're talking about polling people, registered voters does not mean likely voters. This is really important to understand. Anytime you read a story about a poll, look for who they've sampled. 2,400 registered voters, that just means simply people that are on the voter rolls. That doesn't mean they're going to vote. First of all, you need to look for likely voters. That is people who have participated in elections on the regular. They usually vote. Just simply saying, I asked a registered voter doesn't even mean that person's going to show up. Okay, so that's critical. That's number one. Number two, 49% of these 2,400 registered voters who may or may not even show up want Democrats to control Congress. You say, well, that's pretty impressive, 49%. Well, wait. 44% of registered voters who may or may not show up support Republicans. And then if I told you another 7% don't really know how they feel, doesn't that change things all of a sudden? So if I told you that 7% went along with the 44% of those who want Republicans to maintain control, then all of a sudden you'd have a majority, not just a plurality, but a majority of people who want Republicans to be in control. You see how that game is played? So it's meant to leave you with the impression that Democrats are, boy, they're on the come here, and Republicans are really sliding back. Not true. Democrats are offering absolutely nothing, and the polling, if you're honest, actually shows it. It's a jump ball. Meanwhile, in the last month alone, 4 progressive House candidates AOC has endorsed in open primaries have cruised on to victory. She's becoming the kingmaker on the Democrat side. And that's great news. I'll take President Trump and JD Vance and their endorsements over AOC's endorsements, and we'll see. And again, I say, when you look at the polling, and it's effectively a jump ball, are there a lot of progressives like Bette Midler, lunatics singing? Yeah, there are. There are a lot of them. Is it most of the country? No. And as progressive politics are implemented and people see what progressives do, they forget after some time how damaging they are. And then something like Trump happens, corrects the record. The media runs us down with endless attacks on President Trump and makes people start to think, oh, I'm so tired of this. I just want to return to whatever it is they imagine they remember. And what they forget is the destruction of the progressive left. And so the progressive left takes over again. They destroy the country. They make life hell. And then another Trump kind of upset comes along. Wash, rinse, repeat. We've been going through this for about 10 years now. But this time I think the American public is too wise. I think they are starting to remember too well, because it wasn't that too long ago that we were living under the regime of the American left, the destruction of the American left, the lies of the American left. And so I'm pretty optimistic that people are eyes wide open about this fall, and we may well be sitting in a place, maybe, not saying it's definitely going to happen, but it would be a big deal if so, historically big. It hasn't happened 5 times, I don't think. I think it's only happened 3 times, that the party in control at this hour, that is the president, the House, the Senate, all in Republican hands right now, it's only stayed that way after midterms 3 times historically before. And the Democrats are so awful, we may be making history this fall as we watch perhaps the Republicans continue to maintain control. Back to the JD Vance interview for just a minute, because I think it's good stuff. Insight into the vice president and potential future nominee for the GOP, talking about their 4th child on the way and his perspective. I like it.
He has found that something in a very meaningful way, and that's really nice. That's something that you want for someone that you love.
How do you feel as a couple bringing a 4th child into the world? The world's kind of a wild place sometimes. Does it bring you anxiety, joy, a little bit of both?
Well, my view is that the world is always a chaotic place. There are always dangers in the world. There are always uncertainties. But having children has given me a sense of purpose, and it brings infinite joy and hope for the future. So I don't see having a child right now as any different from having a child 9 years ago when our first child was born. There's still that sense of promise that comes with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's different in the sense that there are creature comforts of being the vice president of the United States. We have this beautiful house. We have, like I never have to drive the kids and then, yell at them in the back seat to stop hitting their brother, hitting their sister. We just have Secret Service that drives us around now. So there are these sort of little ways in which life is just more convenient, I think, to bring a new baby into the world. So that's something that I'm actually looking forward to a little bit. Obviously, we travel around in Air Force Two now, which is a great benefit to our family. So it's not like I have to drag 4 kids through the TSA pre-check line anymore. It's different in that way. But I think fundamentally, Usha said it better than I could, which is that having a baby is fundamentally, I think, a hopeful thing. I think you have to have some hope for the future. And I think both of us have a lot of hope for the future. And it's hard not to when you spend your life around a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. Just the perspective that they have on life and on everything, how fresh and exciting everything is. It's hard not to feel very good about the world. And that's kind of how I think about this new baby. Is he's going to come into a very loving family, a very stable family. He's going to have some siblings who may be annoyed when he starts to steal their toys, but that's normal stuff that all kids experience. And we're very lucky to be able to live the life that we lead. And I think our baby is going to come into a family that's in a very, very good spot, and where he's going to be able to grow and thrive and experience the world and God's creation in all these fascinating ways. And that's all I could really hope for out of a new life. And I'm grateful that we're doing it.
You know what I love most about Vice President Vance? His constant gratitude to you and to me and the taxpayers of this country. He never misses an opportunity to remind himself and remind us when he speaks to audiences or whomever, specifically when they ask him about his personal life. He never misses an opportunity to say, I'm incredibly blessed. I'm incredibly privileged. I'm incredibly grateful. I have this taxpayer-supported home gifted to me, Secret Service, a plane that flies me around. My life's pretty easy thanks to the taxpayers, and I'm eternally grateful because I'm aware I'm not lugging stuff through TSA and I'm not yelling at kids from the back seat. It's important that our leaders recognize that. And you know as well as I do that when you think about people like the Bidens or the Obamas, did they ever talk like that? Did they ever talk about the gratitude they had to the American people for the easy lives they were given courtesy of you and me and our tax dollars? They never talked like that. And you know the thing about President Trump, meanwhile, President Trump has a great life. I mean, he's a billionaire and he is in love with the White House. Obviously, he's constantly decorating it and putting flags up and having parties there, building a new ballroom. President Trump obviously loves and reveres the White House, but he knows he's a temporary steward. It is not his home, nor does he need the trappings of it. He can afford everything that the White House and the taxpayers provide him, and so that's why he doesn't take a salary. And that's why he funds a lot of the stuff that he funds to improve the people's house himself. These are different kinds of people. These are not people who need or crave or lust after or want to hang on to the trappings of power. They're temporary stewards, and they are grateful for it for the time that they have. And that, I think, is one of the most impressive attributes of this administration, specifically Vice President Vance and President Trump. I just felt I had to say that. One more from Vice President Vance, talking about his foreign policy point of view, combat in general, while we're talking about the war in Iran, drawing that down, hopefully. And I thought this was an important perspective because people have acted as though President Trump taking it to Iran is somehow going back on his promises. I don't see it as that at all. There's a difference. He always said peace through strength, but he always said it was not about these long, endless, protracted wars. There is a difference. Using strength, using leverage, flexing when you must to achieve a goal is different than committing to 20 years of some kind of foreign entanglement. That's a distinct difference, and Vice President Vance lays it out here.
Did you see yourself as someone who was forged by experience in the Marine Corps, served in uniform? Were you more skeptic of a war in the Middle East, broadly speaking?
Well, I'd say, by the way, I think the president's like this too. I think both of us are generally skeptical of foreign military entanglements. And I certainly was formed by my time in the Marine Corps to be very skeptical of some of these entanglements. But fundamentally, that doesn't mean you can never use military force. And I think the goal here of preventing the Iranians from having a nuclear weapon, we're going to be successful at that goal. And when we are, that's going to be a very good outcome for the American people.
Did you see?
Exactly right. Just a couple more on this front. A guy named Guerrero. U.S. kills leader of Tren de Aragua gang in a strike. Trump posting footage of what appears to be the airstrike showing a green building with a nearby shed being blown up. The U.S. military has killed the leader of Venezuela's Tren de Aragua. At my direction, the United States Southern Command delivered a swift and lethal kinetic strike to successfully execute this Guerrero. His full name, Guerrero Flores, was the longtime leader of Tren de Aragua. The gang is one of the most notorious criminal groups in Latin America and has been a target of the Trump administration. He's accused the group of engaging in irregular warfare against the United States and declared a foreign terrorist organization. Trump posted footage of what appears to be the airstrike showing a green building with a nearby shed being blown up, debris flying into the air. He said the military action was coordinated closely with our friends in Venezuela, with whom we are working very well. Authorities in Venezuela confirmed their involvement in what they described as a joint operation. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, said on X the strike took place earlier last week on the Tren de Aragua compound in Venezuela. American forces, as you know, seized Nicolas Maduro back in January from his compound in a dramatic overnight raid to face criminal charges in New York. Since then, the United States has sought to tighten ties with Maduro's successor, Rodriguez, lifting sanctions on her and pushing to collaborate on the extraction of Venezuela's oil reserves, which are the most plentiful on Earth. So we now control the most plentiful oil reserves on Earth. And President Trump has secured, it appears, a peace deal with Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and go the oil prices. You see how this works? He's now in control of the waterways around Greenland, too, to not allow the free movement of Russia and China through there. So you see all the chess pieces starting to come together. It's pretty big, and it just took some patience, not panic.